Hey everybody, this is David at Barnyard Bees. We're pushing mid-August and the honeybees are getting hungry. When you can look down and see honeybees and wasp, and before you know it there'll be yellow jackets show up, and they're all after anything that they can find that's sweet. Our apples are falling off the ground, the deer are eating them. This is actually under a pear tree right here. You can see this little honeybee right here trying to get some nourishment in there. And that goes to show you how important it is to be feeding your bees. And whether you're open feeding, which hopefully you are if you're in dearth like what we are right now. But if not, you definitely need to be feeding in a hive top feeder. But we don't until this dearth is pretty much over. And I'm beginning to see goldenrod on the highways getting ready to bust out, so it won't be long at all until you see a bunch of goldenrod. Look at these bumblebees right here. Everything's hungry. Look, the little bumblebees that you see that help pollinate our crops. They're all bumblebees right here. Look at that. I've never seen that many congregated in one spot like that at one time. Tiny. Look how teeny tiny they are. So, knowing that your bees are hungry in dearth, you got to feed them something, especially if you're doing splits. You can't do a split and just let them forage on their own because they'll do very poorly. Here's one of our hive top feeders that we'll resume to use once the dearth is over and once that goldenrod comes in, and you can see the bees' behavior where they're not going wild after a drop of honey that you drop on the ground or when you put sugar water. The biggest thing is that I watch when we fill the hive top feeders with sugar water, you know how the bees are acting. If you can hardly feed those bees without them climbing in, look at that wild thing, without them climbing in uncontrollably, it just, the signs after you do it a few years, you'll pick up on these things more and more. And you know, somebody spills a Coke product or a Pepsi product somewhere on the sidewalk and the bees are all over it fast. It's signs like that. And also you can see that, you know, you can look and see that pollen may be coming in slowly, but the nectar is not. So now this is a very small split right here. And that's another thing I want to talk about is, when should you stop doing splits? Well, we're pushing mid-August. What is today? On the 13th, 14th, I believe, of August. And of course, we're still doing splits, and we will up through till somewhere in September, depending on the goldenrod at that time and whether we're going into a drought at that time. It's just all conditions depend when we stop. This was a simple one frame split right here. Very small, one full frame, and then introduced a virgin queen. You can tell it's very small. It was a frame that had a lot of cat brood on it, and it's doing pretty good. It's not been there long. Here's the frame. They're starting to draw out the frame here beside it, and it does make it a little bit more difficult when you do have to open feed. Because when you can feed directly from the hive top feeder, you can, but you just got to be careful. It just, when you're doing it in a yard like this where you have a lot of strong colonies and a lot of weak colonies, it's very difficult. A lot of people don't understand that. And when I mean by weak colonies, I mean population weak, like this, for instance. You know, if you have a big, strong 3-stack 8 deep somewhere in the yard, and then you got this, you could be in danger of a lot of bad robins. So you got to be careful. You got to be careful. They're building this out good. It depends in your area when you should stop. It really just depends. Like I said, we do up until September at least, sometimes mid-September. It depends. And another thing too, as you get on further, you're gonna have to make stronger splits. This is a very small split, but the next ones we'll do will probably be at least 2 frames of bees. So see what I'm saying? The further you go, because you're going to have to get these things built up for winter time if these are going to be overwintered nucs. So, and it wouldn't even hurt. It's hard to do 3 frames, but because that's a lot of bees being invested. But if you do a good 2 strong frames as your splits, and then check and make sure she's laying good, and you got to feed. And I still believe, and some people like pollen patties. Hey, that's fine. If that's what you like, that's what you do. But I prefer open pollen feeding because they get what they need when they want it. It doesn't attract hive beetles as much. All pollen attracts hive beetles, but when you're smacking it right on top of your hive right here, that can cause a lot of hive beetles. But if you do, you need to use very small amounts. Don't use big amounts of pollen patties, because it can cause a lot of problems, especially when it's uneaten and they don't consume it and it just sits there. You got to keep an eye on stuff like this. You just got to manage right. So that's really what I just want to talk about today. I just want to give everybody a little hint, a little heads up on, the time of year and what you need to be doing. You'll have to look in your state when you can do later splits. I mean, if you go upper state New York and places like that, they're probably done for the year, I'm sure, doing splits. But you get in South Florida and they could be up in December and still doing splits, or they do them all year. I've talked to a lot of people in Florida, South Florida, and said they never stop doing splits. It's a year-round thing. So hey, that's good, if that's what you can do. But don't forget to feed. And as soon as the dirt stops, get you one of these hive top feeders. These things, they do excellent. Now, if you need any, just a heads up, barnyardbees.com does have them. Not saying you need to buy them there or have to buy them there, but if you're looking for a place that you need some, we got them there at the store or online, barnyardbees.com. So that's about it, folks. Just make a quick, short video for you, and hope your bees are doing fine. Hope everybody's staying safe out there. Don't forget, click on the little bell, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Barnyard Bees.